Hey, okay. A slight technical glitch, but we're here at 3:01. Hi, welcome. Let me know that you can hear me, people. Welcome to Boundary Palooza Live. Yay! I'm so excited that you're here. If you don't know me, maybe you're new to my crew. My name is Terry Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a relationship expert and the founder of Boundary Bootcamp. Hi, so many people here. Stormy, North Germany, hello. You can hear me, great. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. Welcome, you guys. So much to do today. This is workshop 3 of 4, and our topic is 4 simple foolproof boundary scripts. Okay, so I couldn't keep it to 4, so it's going to be more than 4 simple foolproof boundary scripts because I really tried, but I couldn't. I want to say hi, who's here. If you haven't logged in to the chat roll, or if you are here, say hello to me in the comments. That would be great. There we are. Now I'm seeing all you guys. All right. Welcome from Northern Ontario. California's in the house. We got Poland. Hi. We got Hawaii. Aloha. We got Lebanon. Hi, Lebanon. How you doing? Southern Cal. Welcome to my Van Groovy people. I see you. Kalamazoo is in the house. Norway is in the house. The Netherlands, Winnipeg. Wow. Chicago, everybody. So let's move into what we're actually doing today. I'm so psyched that you guys are here. I'm so blown away by all the comments and the insights that you have been sharing in the Facebook group and under all the videos. And for those of you who took me up on the meditation challenge, right on. So if you weren't in the number 2, don't worry. And if you don't have the meditation, don't worry. You can get it all. Just go to terrycole.com/central. We made it as easy as possible. Put it all in one place. All the replays are in one place. Everything you need is in one place. One woman wrote in and basically said, I really think that doing that meditation for 5 days gave me the courage to tell my boss no, because he wanted her to work overtime and he's kind of a bully. Because if I worked, I would have had to cancel my massage. So she got her massage. Thank you for sharing, Denise in Boulder. And you know what she lost? A shit ton of resentment. That's what she lost. Right on. That is called a boundary win, people. So super excited for everything that is happening. I'm really proud of you guys for wanting to increase your boundary IQ. Way to go. So many people complain about their life, their relationships, their people. They don't know how to talk to them, but they don't do squat about it. You're here doing the thing. This is actually doing the thing. So right on you. And I appreciate your time. You could be doing anything for an hour. You could be watching Netflix, but instead you're here with me. So thank you. I will not waste a drop. If you haven't downloaded the workbook, we got lots of good stuff in there. So you want to, it's just terrycole.com/workbook, easy breezy. And you know, the empowerment party never stops in the Real Love Revolution Facebook group. So just leave your stuff, leave your comments, leave your aha moments, what is happening for you, and keep sharing on social. I want you to really use the hashtag Boundary Palooza. You know why? Because BB 2019 is for Big Brother House as well. So let's not use that. Let's just use Boundary Palooza, okay? Because I'd rather not, no offense, be super associated with the Big Brother franchise. That would be better not to be. But keep on sharing. And you can win prizes. You guys are sharing? If you are, you're going to win prizes. And one of you is going to win a 30-minute Yak Fest with me virtually. Who doesn't want that? I know you do. So let's move into the last thing I want to say before I start teaching is to ask a question. We would like you to put about 3 or 4 question marks in front of the question so that Team TC can grab those questions easily. They're putting them in a separate doc for me, and I will absolutely get to them, as many as I can. At the end, I'm going to be teaching for 35 or 40 minutes, and then I'm going to be taking questions the rest of the time. So that's how we can find it, because there are lots and lots of comments, and it's confusing. So now let's drop it down. Drop your attention inward. If you have any little lavender oil, I have the smallest lavender bottle in the world right here from Energy Lara. If you've got yours, get it out, put some on your hand, rub it together. Take a deep breath. Just take a moment to acknowledge you for doing something sacred for you, taking this time for you, because raising your boundary intelligence and your literacy, that really is going to get you empowered in all of the relationships in your life. And isn't that what we want? Yes, it is. So as you're taking a deep breath and you're inhaling your lavender oil, I'm going to start with a couple of questions. So I have 3 questions, and then I'm going to ask you to drop into the comments which one or which ones, because they may all resonate with you the most. The first one is, when you know you need to set a limit, do you labor over the words that you're going to say, like really thinking about them, and then still most of the time end up feeling like it came out wrong, like not actually what you meant? That's number 1. Number 2, when you wait too long to draw a boundary, you just let it accumulate, all that anger and rage. When it finally happens, do you explode in anger instead of setting it calmly with ease and grace? That's number 2. Has that ever happened to you? Yeah. And the third one is, do you avoid asking or speaking up sort of altogether when you have a preference or a need or even a limit that you want to set? Because you just don't have the words and you're like, I don't want to deal with the drama, just whatever, who cares? So those are the 3. So tell me which one or which ones of those resonate with you. We have a lot of 2s. All right, you guys, we have a lot of people waiting too long. So you're a lot of volcanoes out there. 1 and 2, got it. Yes, yes, no. So the last person does not. Donna says no in the end. Got it. Yes, a lot of you say all, and there's actually a lot of 1s and 2s. So P.S., no matter what you answered, you're in the exact right place, because this is all of what we're going to be handling today. So the first thing I want to hit is the importance of being proactive. So the prescript, the first thing, and these are in your workbook, and then the ones that are not in your workbook, don't worry, because I did add, because I always say I'm not going to, and then I'm like, but this is so good, I want them to have it. So someone on my team will be copying and pasting them into the chat for you. So do not worry. So the prescript inventory, when you know you need to talk to someone, I want you to think about your history with them, how you've interacted with them before, to get really realistic about, because every boundary situation, every need that you have to say something, all of that stuff is super different depending on who you're talking to and what your history is. So that's one thing, is looking at your history with that person. Then you're going to be looking at what you learned. What basically did you learn at home, right? Where you grew up. So how did your parents handle this stuff? Did they handle this stuff? Did they not handle this stuff? Did they do it through sort of acting out rather than actually using words? Was it passive aggressive? Was it more explosive? So it was more fighting, but not really coming to a good resolution, because your parents' boundary style and how they did it basically was your model of behavior for how to try to get your needs met. Whether they did it successfully or not, that's what's in your tool belt. So much of what we're doing in Boundary Palooza and what I do in the Boundary Bootcamp course is we're basically adding a million tools that we know for sure actually work to that tool belt right now that might be kind of lame. But don't worry, because you can always make it better, right? And that's what we're doing. So we're thinking about what our parents did. Was there a lot of expecting people to read your minds? Did your mother or did your father expect people to just know what they wanted? Was there hinting? Was there implication? Like, I implied anyone who was normal would know. Like, these are all ways of not dealing with being direct and speaking words. And when I say direct, you can be kind and gentle. You can wear a velvet glove at all times if you want to, when you're being direct. So if you have sort of a trip about like confrontation and what it means, I want you to really try to just throw that out for right now, because when you learn the actual steps to do this, the word confrontation totally changes, because nothing is a confrontation. You learn how to do it early and often. You don't wait until you're a volcano, and you find out about the people in your life, because when you start asserting yourself in a healthy and appropriate way, people will start revealing themselves early. So you don't wake up 2 years into a relationship being like, oh my God, you're a boundary bully. I didn't even know it because I'm too busy, pleasing you. Now I'm starting to please myself, right? So that's basically what we're doing. Hinting doesn't work, implying, beating around the bush, and then getting angry because people are not psychic. So none of that stuff actually works. So we're not going to do any of that crap. You're going to learn how to do something so much better. The second step before we get into the actual scripts is visualization and expectation. Because we do a lot of visualizing, and I think I spoke about this in the last workshop a little bit, like why do athletes visualize the course? Because it actually makes a difference. You need to see yourself doing it and doing it successfully, or you have all of this fear that comes up and gets in the way. And the expectation, when we go in really with trepidation and fear, when we go into a conversation that we're like, crap, I really wish I didn't have to have this, what happens? The other person is feeling that. We don't want them. We want them to be feeling your confidence, your ease, your expansion. You're like, hey man, no problem. So the expectation and the visualization is really great. We're also switching the expectation. And this is so incredibly important. Please pay attention. So many of you think, like I did, that having a boundary request, telling someone your limit or your preference is about changing or controlling the other person. It isn't. Making the request is about you increasing your confidence and standing up for you and being truthful and allowing the people in your life to know who you are if they care. And if you make these honest requests and tell them how you feel about things, and they don't care, that's now you're starting to have valid data. This is information for you to eventually make decisions about who gets the privilege of being in your life. Right? What you're learning in Boundary Palooza, what I will teach you in the actual course itself, Boundary Bootcamp, is how to be a house with a door that opens or closes upon what you want and need. If you don't know how to do this, you're just a house with no doors and no fence. Any mother effer can come in, sit down, eat your food, do whatever they want, leave. We don't want that. And people who do that don't respect you. Because if you live in a house without a door, you don't respect yourself. You don't respect your privacy. So I really want you to get this switch, that it's all about you, and simply making the request is a boundary win because you change. When you're able to do that, it changes the way you relate to yourself and the way you relate in the world. But it's how you feel yourself changes. You feel like you can count on you. So that also makes the stakes so much less high, right? Because if our goal, and if the only thing we want is to get our way and they need to acquiesce to what we want, and if we can't control them, then we're setting ourselves up to lose. We have to be able to, sometimes they're not going to do what we want. But if they never do what we want and we are consistently telling them, that's information. Why do we want to be with someone who doesn't give a crap about the way we feel? We kind of maybe shouldn't, So I wanted to give all that before we move into the third thing. Is there's two parts of body language that I think are super important in this process. One of them is the power posing. Amy Cuddy, which is Cuddy, has a TED Talk about power posing. So some people say it's a disprovable social science, it's soft science. I don't care. I'm telling you, I've been a psychotherapist for 22 years. There is something to this science that if you stand in a power pose, which could be this, it could be the superwoman pose, it could be with your feet up on a desk with your hands behind your head for 2 minutes before you start your day, you will be releasing different hormones in your body. There'll be more dopamine and less adrenaline. Now, those are the facts from blood tests. So my feeling is it's free. All you got to do is watch it on her TED Talk, and you don't even have to because I just gave you the best part of it. Try it. See what happens. You never know. The other thing that I'm super interested in as a psychotherapist is the body language and what you are broadcasting all the time in your life. When you walk into your office, when you go on a date, your body language is preceding your words, right? They see you. If you walk into your office, let's just say you actually don't want to talk in the morning, or you don't like to, and you have a chatty coworker who the moment they see you, they ambush you and want to tell you all the crap they did over the weekend or whatever that you don't like. Your body language, if your body language is open, if you're slowly walking into your office and sort of looking around, you're basically telling chatty Kathy, come on, come get me. Can't wait to hear about your grandmother's 90th, friggin' birthday party. If you are physically staying with a swift gait, even if you see chatty Kathy, how you doing, chatty? Keep on moving till you get to your office. You're telling her something. And it's kind. Because you know what? You resent this chatty person, but they don't even know it because you're not telling them. So your body language can tell a lot. And whether you know it or not, when you're pissed off, you're closed, you're sitting like this. If I'm pissed off, I will turn my body sideways and cross my leg away from the person. So I'm really being like, get out of my space. So all of us do this. This is just human nature. Our bodies are constantly trying to create appropriate boundaries for our physical well-being. So if we feel emotionally threatened, our body language is saying that. So I want you to use it to your advantage. If you want to be open on a date or with someone you care about, be mindful of what that looks like. When they're talking, that means you lean in. That means that you keep your arms down, not your arms crossed. This is very valuable, and we use it a lot in the course itself. Because if your body language is in like direct opposition to what you want, you're already sabotaging yourself and you don't even know it. So now why don't we move into some strategies, shall we? Who wants some words? Here we go. There are different ways of approaching a boundary script. So we figure out who we're talking to, we figure out what we would like to have happen, we look at the past that we have with them, all of those things. And it's not always necessary to be like brutally honest, quote unquote, or to say the exact thing that you think, right? If you're on a date with someone and you're positive you're never seeing them again, and they're saying, oh, well, you have to go so soon. Let me walk you to your car. Let me walk you home. Let me walk you to the subway. But you don't want them to. You can use a tactic called deflection. So instead of saying, no, because I'm never seeing you again, because that isn't nice and it's not necessary. You'll be able to let them down more nicely later on the app itself. You can deflect. You can just not answer the question, or you can say, no, actually, I'm going to hit the ladies' room and then I'm going to split. So you're not saying, I don't want you to walk me. You're saying, I have to pee. Can I do that without you? And then I'm going to be leaving. Or I have a phone call that I have to make on the way. So I'm going to go. It was lovely. Have a great night. Give yourself permission to get out of there. You can also use humor, right? We don't always have to be so serious, because humor is it adds levity to a situation. If someone's asking you a lot of questions and you don't want to answer them, you can say, wait, are you like an FBI agent? What is going on with the fifth degree right now? Give me a second, or let me ask you a question. There's a way to be, that wasn't so funny, but normally there's a way to be funny, kind of tongue in cheek. Again, the most important part, and we're going to move into this now, is not answering a question that you don't want to answer. So start with the first script, and that's going to be the next thing we do is how to not answer. The script right now is, I'd like to make a simple request, right? Can you get Vic's phone? Just Vic has his phone on. So he's sucking up the bandwidth and making noise while I'm doing this. Thanks, babe. And he's in the studio. Anyway, and can then turn his phone off, please? Okay. So when you make a simple request, so this is the language. I'd like to make a simple request. So how can we use that? Well, we can use it for anything, because no matter how complicated what you're asking them to do, the request itself is simple. Doesn't mean they're going to do it. But a lot of people like to lead with that. I like that. I use it all the time, right? And my feeling is it's a very soft way of sort of opening. the request that you have. You're kind of letting them know that you're going to ask them something or you're going to make a request of some kind, but you're saying that it's simple. So that's the first, super simple. It doesn't fail. Some people don't like to use the words simple request. You can say, oh, hey, I'd like to make a request. That's fine too. I like the word simple because I do believe that every request is simple, whether they're going to do it or not, right? And again, how we get to this is when we're now in this new mindset that them saying yes or no is not what our action is about. We are working on our own behalf to get our needs met. So it's a win regardless of what they say. And that new framework really can change everything for you if you allow it to get in there. So that's the first easy breezy foolproof script. There you go. Let's move into a situation that you might have with people who are asking you intrusive questions. The most important thing is that you don't answer a question that you don't want to answer. Not everyone deserves to know intimate things about your life. It's your job to be vulnerable in a way that I would call voluntarily vulnerable, not compulsively so, right? Because some people think there's like intimacy in doing that. I promise you there's not. It just makes you vulnerable to people that you have no idea whether they're trustworthy or not. So the way we do it is over time. As someone continues to keep their word and be the person consistently that they're presenting themselves to be, this is when we start to share things about our lives. So what happens when you're in a situation and someone says, so why don't you eat gluten? Or why don't you have kids? Or when are you getting married? Or why aren't you married? You're like, wow, okay. None of your friggin' business is what you feel like saying, but you don't have to, because the real key is you need to question the question. That's what we're questioning. This work is based on Kasia Urbaniak. She has a whole thing called Verbal Self-Defense. She's got an online dojo. I love her work. It's really great. So this technique, you're basically flipping the script on the other person. So I'm giving you 3 right now that I like when someone has asked me a question that I think is none of their friggin' business. And it depends on the mood I'm in. I use humor probably with people I don't know well. I'm going to say 90% of the time, I try to go the humor route first. If they persist, I will go another route. There are many routes to go. So someone asks me something, I will quickly say, why do you ask? So someone says, why aren't you married? If you say, why do you ask? This puts the person in a position to have to admit that they're simply asking you because they're friggin' nosy. It is their morbid curiosity as to why they want to know. I mean, we could get into a whole thing like, we could question the questioner by saying, interesting, I just met you at a wedding. Do you think that we're close enough for me to tell you that? I don't even think you need to go there. That's something Kasia would say that you could say, but I don't even think to. When I use this one, why would you ask? Or, they usually go, if I say, why do you ask? They usually go, I was just making conversation. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's talk about something else. And it's not weird because for me now it's so natural. Another version of that, if it's a little more of an offense, is saying, why would you ask me that? Now I'm really kind of putting the onus on them. They now know that I think that what they asked me was either rude or insensitive or I'm not answering, that's for sure. And then the last version of that is, why do you want to know? That's it. So those I added because I think that they're very easy, breezy, and there's something that you can do in the moment. So moving into flipping the script on the person. And another part of that is we're very dutiful, most of us. We feel like if someone asks us a question, that we need to answer the question. And the truth is, we don't. And that it is your right as to what you share with people, how you share it, how quickly you share it. And I think that that's really important, that you get that it's your right and your obligation to figure that out for yourself. because a lot of times we're very taught, basically, we're trained. It's a habitual response that when someone asks, we're kind of dutiful. We feel like, do I have to answer that Bob just asked me how much money I make? And you're like, you don't have to answer that. And, I think we talked a little bit in the last one about the one saying no, that you can say, not nearly enough. How much money do you make? Oh my God, not half of what I'm worth. But again, that is a way of deflecting by not answering. It's a diversionary tactic where you have every right to do that. And the more you do it, the better you get. So it doesn't become this charged thing so that you're like, and keep in mind, I'm talking about people. You meet people socially. Maybe they're not important in your life. So why do we need to write a dissertation about why we feel that way? Or why do we really care that they understand why we're saying what we're saying? If they're people who are like sort of on the outskirts of our life, So I feel like the real drawing the boundary or sharing yourself honestly, we can reserve that for people who belong in your VIP section, If people, this is the same thing when you question the question. If people comment on the way that you look, if people comment on anything that's physical, I think you can ignore it. That's one way to go. Just act like it's not happening. Or you can respond to it and be like, hey, why that's a lot of emphasis on my body, Bob. I'm not sure why you're doing that, but it makes me uncomfortable. Stop, especially if it's a work situation. Moving into, so anyway, we got that. You questioned the question. Moving into frames. So I created easy frames that might be something that you make your own, right? All of these things. So what not to say. So let's say you've got someone who's talking throughout the meeting. What you don't say is, you were talking throughout the meeting this morning. It was rude. What's wrong with you? Right? So we're not going to say that because that is very provocative. And actually, it's not a good way to problem solve. You're like, I just want to know you're a jerk. Oh, cool. Well, you feel better because the next meeting you're in with that jerk, they're going to be talking again. So you didn't actually do anything proactive or something that would be good for you. What you could say is, I wanted to bring it to your attention that I noticed you talking throughout the meeting today, which made it hard for others to hear me and required me to repeat myself. I thought I'd bring it to your attention because on this project that we're starting, we're going to have a lot of meetings. So could you do that? Sure. You don't need to say any more than that. It's obvious. And we're also making sort of a generous assumption that if you tell Bob this, that he's going to keep his trap shut in the next meeting. And then if he's not, you got to move into having more of a consequence with that boundary or whatever. But these are all frames that you can change to fit the situation. I thought you should know. I wanted to bring it to your attention. I needed to tell you. I wanted to put it on your radar that, I wanted you to be aware of how I felt about whatever it may be. And all of these, I believe, are actually in your workbook, so don't worry. Someone just said, bring out the knife to make it more real for Bob. You're like, hey, Bob, I'm just saying, I might just stab you. All right, so those you will make your own, but let's move into, and this is something that I added for you. What about auto advice givers? Do any of you have this situation? Because these are all boundaries, and these are all boundary scripts. These are all desired boundaries, right? So do you have people, you talk to them about something, and they immediately say, oh, I know exactly what you should do. Or they say, well, why didn't you do that last Wednesday? So already, now you're upset about something and they're already making you feel worse. The auto or unsolicited advice givers, our job for sure is to set them up to succeed, because a lot of these people in your life might really have their heart in the right place, we'd like to assume, and they don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know that they're giving you advice in this automatic way because they're uncomfortable with you being in pain. So that sentiment is kind of sweet. That's kind of nice. It's why probably many of you are auto advice givers and why I used to be, right? I mean, come on. I know it. You know it. It's true. because you love your friends, because you love people. You are lovers and you don't want people to suffer. But the truth is, when we give auto advice, we're actually making their suffering worse, because now they're just like, oh, now I'm a problem for you to fix too. Great. You don't want to hear about my pain. And any of the things like, you're such a winner, you're gonna whatever, you're a rock, you've been through this before. Any of those things, again, that's to make you feel better. So if someone does that and you want to stop them sort of midway through, because maybe you haven't told them what you need, you can simply say, I'm actually not looking for input right now, and I would so appreciate you just holding space for the way I'm feeling. I'll figure out what to do. So you're giving them a break, right? You're giving them relief, like, oh, hey, I just took it off your plate because it's my plate. You're not, it's not for you to figure out. Even if you have the most brilliant idea in the world, I still have to deal with it because it's my work or it's my whatever it is, you know? So, and we'll put that in the comments. Don't worry. I'm actually not looking for input right now, and I would so appreciate you just holding space for the way that I'm feeling. I'll figure it out. Because you will. And you want them to care that you're in pain. I would just simply say to my friends, hey, I'm not open right now for advice. I really need to know that you care that I'm suffering. And they'll be like, of course I do. I'm okay. So just say that. Say you're sorry, I'm in pain. That works better, you know. And people can get with it. You know, they will do it. And because you don't want to be the auto advice giver. So I gave you 2 added scripts here because I wanted you to be able to not be the one creating more pain for the people that you love, which is basically saying, what you don't want to say to them is, I know what you should do, right? But what you do want to say is, how can I best support you right now? That's it. When I used to work with couples many years ago when I had a private practice, I would say this to the men all the time. You think she needs answers from you. She doesn't. She needs time, compassion, understanding, space to tell you how she's feeling. And the moment you tell her she should have done it differently or what she should do tomorrow, it doesn't feel good. She feels like a problem you want to fix quickly because you've got something else to do. So by asking, hey, how can I best support you right now? What would feel good? What would make you feel supported? And sometimes with Vic, it could be, can you make me a cup of tea? Do you want to fool around? Can you just lay with me on the couch right now and watch bad TV? Like whatever. The thing is, but there is a way. And that person definitely has a preference the same way that you have a preference for how you want to be supported. Make sense? So anyway, those are some of my faves. Then we move into this, and this is in the workbook and this is actually from Marshall Rosenberg's, is that his name? Rosenberg? Yeah, Nonviolent Communication. So it's like a conflict resolution, very famous conflict resolution book and methodology, basically. So what you don't say if you live with someone who's a slob is, when I see your crap on the floor, I feel enraged at what a slob you are, right? Don't say that. Because the truth is, that is not an effective boundary. That's just bitching. That's just judgment. That's just making them wrong. Rather than looking at their action and trying to have hope that if you told them the action you'd rather they take, that they might just do that. And you may say, well, that's obvious, you know, because what I'm going to tell you to say is, when I see your clothing on the floor, I feel frustrated because my need for cleanliness and our agreed upon way we're going to handle clothes, because we already said we're not going to throw them on the floor, let's say, that need of mine for the cleanliness that you know about, because we've talked about it, is not getting met. Would you be willing to just throw it in the hamper instead? We're trying to enroll the other person in the problem. I don't know if I gave you the best example. You get the point. You get it, that you're giving them a way to say yes to you instead of a way to put up their hand and be like, you're always complaining. You're never happy. You always are critical of me. You're always telling me that I'm wrong. That is what you will get back when you say, when I see your dirty crap on the floor, it makes me so mad. I'm so pissed off because you're just a friggin' slob. Because that's very conclusive. and not helpful at all and will not get your need met, which is really this whole entire workshop is about you learning boundary literacy so that you can ultimately get your needs met and be authentically known, right? Because these are the things that we need to be actually empowered in our life, whether it's work, whether it's home, whether it's friends, that's what we need. So I hope that that was helpful. Many of you know, because a lot of you have actually already, some of you have taken Boundary Bootcamp, some of you have already asked me about it, but at the end of Boundary Bootcamp, because scripts were so incredibly important, during the first year, I actually collected everything that I taught in the script and the strategy way and created what's called a Boundary Bible. And that becomes a reference guide if you end up doing the course that you have that you can look back to, because listen, you're so individual. All of you are so different. Some of you may use humor all the time, right? Some of you that may be the way you want to go. So keeping it light, being funny. When Bob says, "Oh, I saw you're taking a personal day tomorrow. What are you doing on your personal day, Terry?" Well, hello, duh, Bob. That's why it's called a personal day. I'm doing something personal, right? You could be funny. You don't have to shame or humiliate Bob, but I'm also not friggin' telling Bob what I'm doing on my personal day because it's none of his damn business, according to me. So we're going to move into the Q&A because I'm at exactly 37 minutes right now, which I got to say I'm getting really good with the timing. So let's move into, I'm going to go to another screen where everything is, there's so many things. I got to turn the internet back on so I can see what was added to that screen. So hold on. Woo! Oh, I can humiliate Bob. I already don't like him so much. You're funny, DN. You're funny. I can too. I really try not to though, because you know what? Honestly, then I feel bad. Then I've got that guilt, the guilt, blame, shame, bullshit, boundary trifecta. Well, you don't know it yet if you haven't taken the course, but I will teach you all about it if you decide you're going to. It's so painful because then you want to take it back. And then you got to be like super nice to Bob the next day. And he kind of is an idiot. So you're like, why do I got to make myself be nice to him? If I didn't say that thing, I wouldn't have to feel bad, All right, moving into your questions. Here we go. So many. All right. Moving into, hold on. I am 70 years old and I'm still working with a mother who's 99. God bless you. Years old that has narcissistic personality disorder. Oh God, that's a nightmare. I'm still practicing boundaries. Wow. Can I just say, I'm bowing to you right now. You didn't say your name or I'd say it. Right on. Oh my God. There's a place in heaven for you. Whew. I bet you're a boundary boss at this point, I hope. All right. How can you detect if someone is actually setting a boundary or a power over preference? I'm not sure I understand the question. I mean, if someone is setting a boundary, I can tell you the difference between a boundary and a preference. If someone is setting a boundary, it's something that has to do with them, right? They're not making you wrong. They're saying, hey, this is what I would prefer. But that's still a preference, right? So it's kind of like if they're trying to dominate you by saying, even though everyone wants to work on like video conferencing, and they go, no, I really need to work. I only like to work by email. That's what I like to do. That's my preference. I feel like that's someone trying to power trip because it should be what the most of the group wants to do, right? So I think I answered that maybe. That's the difference though, because preferences, we won't always get our preferences met, but we certainly won't get them met if we don't let people know what they are, right? So that's why it's so important and how it bolsters your self-esteem by saying, this is my preference. And then when you actually have healthy boundaries, if it doesn't go your way, you don't lose your mind. You don't torture people. You're not punishing someone. You're not being withdrawn in anger. You're not talking to them. You're not texting them back. Those behaviors are all behaviors of someone who does not have healthy boundaries. Those are disordered boundaries because now you attach so much meaning to getting your way that it's like, that's not healthy, right? We got to give as good as we get if we want to be a boundary boss. It's got to go both ways. Okay. What if you do not feel immediately when a boundary is violated? Then it's hard to avoid waiting too long to react and get angry. You know what? Honestly, Elise, you have to, this is the whole place where time and repetition come in. And that this is why over longer period of time, Boundary Palooza, we've had about 10 days, and this has been great. Why there is something after this for those who really want to get it, because 8 weeks is a long time with guidance, with repetition, with strategy. So the more you do this, the more expert you'll be. And I'll tell you right now, if something was, you had a problem a week ago and you're like, shit, I should have said something, but I didn't. Right now, I promise you, you can say, oh, hey, Bob, you know what? I was thinking about what happened last Wednesday and I had a thought. Are you open to listening to it? Bob's going to think you're saying something great to him. He's going to be like, totally, bring it on. And then you're going to say, you know what? I noticed that you were texting in the meeting and it really bummed me out because I was talking and it was distracting other people. So I'd like to make a simple request that you don't do that in next week's meeting, please. Now, Bob might be slightly shocked that you're talking about it, but you have the right. You don't need anyone's permission to go back to a situation that happened 24, 48 hours, weeks, days, years. I don't care. Doesn't matter how long ago it is. You have the right to go back and do that, So I hope that was helpful. And it gets better. The more you do it, the better it gets. That's all I'm going to say. It gets easier. Okay. Looking to refine a response. Someone recently told me that I was just like my mother, the narc. Feels like such a boundary violation. As the golden child, I heard this all of my life, taking a piece of my identity and handing it over to her. So I smiled and calmly responded with, if you really knew her, you wouldn't say that. It broke the freeze and gave me some power, but I'd like to refine the response for the next time it happens. Honestly, Penny, I think that response was really great. If you want to become slightly more boundaried about it, you can say, you know what is so interesting? I don't remember asking you what you think about me. Because you know what? Honestly, Bob, what you think about me is none of my business. I've got this much interest in what you think about me. So that's a little more aggressive stance on that. That's maybe more refined depending on who you are. But you can take it that one step further, because by saying, if you knew her, you wouldn't say that, that actually is a strong response, because you're basically saying, I know who I am. But actually wanting them to not do that again is saying, I don't remember asking your opinion about what you think about me, So I hope that was helpful. Crystal said, in a relationship, what if your boundaries are opposite to theirs, or if your boundary request crosses over their boundary? When we're talking about real boundaries, when we get into deal breakers, like things that we cannot live without, like things that if they're in the relationship, we would have to leave the relationship, then that can be a problem, right? So if your boundary is, I can't deal with any fighting and physical, psychological abuse, but that person is like, this is just the way I am, and this is how I express myself when I'm mad, then you're at an impasse. That's like a boundary impasse. I don't see getting past that. I see figuring out how to change the relationship or get out of the relationship, honestly. If you're talking about, you have a preference and you like to go to bed late, but your partner likes to go to bed early. Those are preferences and not necessarily hardcore boundaries. Will you sometimes go to bed early because your partner would like you to? Will they sometimes go to bed late because you would like them to? I hope so. Because this is what compromising in a long-term relationship looks like. So I think that getting super clear about the difference between a request, like a boundary preference, like I prefer coffee over tea, as I was saying the other day, that's a preference. That's different than, please do not comment on my body. I do not like it. I will not stay in the room with you if you do that. Please stop interrupting me. I wasn't finished with my story. When you interrupt me, it makes me feel like you don't care about what I'm saying. So, I think it depends on what you're talking about. So I hope that was helpful. Could Terry please say something about how to best apply the boundary stuff with narcissists? I can, but actually there are so many of you that need this, that actually are inspiring me to create something super special, which I can't reveal right now, but I will reveal quite soon. Obviously, it has to do with handling narcissists. So I will say a little bit more now. Listen, you know this. Lisa, you know this because if you're dealing with a narcissist, that a lot of these rules don't apply. So there's something that's called the gray rock method that anyone in the world of narcissism knows about. It means become incredibly uninteresting to a narcissist because what they're interested in is sparkly and sexy, and they like to fight because that is, they like to make you feel bad. They like to win. They like to brag. So friggin' exhausting. So if it's a narcissist you have to be in a relationship with, then accept that the less they know about you, the better for you, and become as boring and uninteresting as you possibly can. That's my 2 cents. Because a real narcissist, it is very, very difficult to do this with because they love it. You're going to they can't wait to find out what boundary that is the worst for them to cross for you so they can trample all over it right now. They're like, oh my God, I can't run fast enough. To use this information you just shared with me to make you feel like a piece of crap, you know? Oh, so painful. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Okay, hold on. Someone said, but this, going to the bathroom or lying about a call, isn't honest. That's true. Then I would do exactly what you said, what we shouldn't do, telling us or others lies to avoid to set boundaries. No, but here's the thing, Lisa. I made the distinction that your full-on balls to the wall honesty doesn't necessarily have to be with everyone. I don't want you doing that with the important people in your life. And here's the thing. These are suggestions. If it would work for you better on a first date to say to the guy's face, hey, Bob, you're super not it for me. So you know what? I don't even want the entree. Cancel it. I'm out. Bye. Do it. Or you wait till the end and say, you know what? This was really lovely. I want to say thank you for a lovely dinner. I don't think we're a fit. So I don't want you to walk me to my car or my house or the subway because I'm pretty much never seeing you again, but I wish you well. I just figured you had a right to know. And some people do look at it that way, like they want to be that honest, and that's okay. I'm just not one of them because I just feel like, why do I got to tell this guy I'm never going to see again that it's an epic fail? To me, I'm not being disingenuous in a way that makes me feel bad about myself. I reserve my real truth. So white lies with people who you're never seeing again, maybe it's okay, maybe not. I think deflection when you're with someone who's trampling on your boundaries is just fine. I don't want to be brutal with Aunt Betty, but I also don't want to tell her about my fertility cycle, you know? So I find a way, or I tell Aunt Betty we're not trying because I don't want to tell Aunt Betty about my fertility cycle. That's my choice. I don't need to educate every person in the world. I just need to protect myself and speak in a way that works for me. So I hope that made sense to you. And I'm sure other people thought the same thing, Lisa. So thanks for saying it. I really do appreciate it. How do you request a person to not use personal information as conversational openers all the time? I'm afraid to mention anything that I don't want to hear about on every subsequent conversation. This is a relationship with a sibling. Here's the thing. You answered your own question, babe. If it's a sibling you care about, then maybe you just make the request and say, hey, I'd like to make a simple request. When I trust you with things and I tell you things, I would like you to not bring them up in every subsequent conversation because it makes me feel super vulnerable, super fast in the relationship. And I'd rather not. Because what I'm seeing is happening is that it's making me not want to tell you things. And see if they can abide by it. See if they can. If they can't, don't tell them things that are important to you. And that's a shift you have to decide if you want to make it or not, right? All right, moving into the next one. What if they respond in a way that is basically accusing you of being defensive? Well, I guess you can say, listen, I guess we have to agree to disagree. What I'm doing here, what I feel like I'm doing here, what I want to do here is I'm making a simple request for what my preference is. I'm not sure how that makes me defensive. I'm actually proactively asking you for what I want. So I'm confused actually about how that feels defensive to you. Because that person is being defensive and projecting it onto you. But I think you can question what they're saying by saying, no, I'm not actually. I'm just asking you for what I would like. I'm not saying you have to say yes. I'm just letting you know because I want you to know me. You know, I hope that was helpful. Okay. Robin said, I can get through the request. I follow part in defending my request if questions are challenged. Oh, that's a good one. I have an ARC mom who always has bullied me out of my preferences for her to get her own way. This fear comes up whenever I'm trying to set a boundary with anyone, justified or not. Anyone else find this as a core of the fear to speak up for yourself? Okay, so let's just quickly talk about the difference between giving someone context and trying to convince them that you have a right. If someone is trying to wear down your thing and say that you don't need that, why, that is like dumb. Then the hand goes up and you go, oh, hey, wait, there's confusion happening here. I'm not asking your opinion on my request. I'm simply making a request that we go to this place to eat instead of this place to eat. So yes or no, are you willing to do that? Because that is my preference. It would really make me happy if we could do that. So we have to stop people when they start trying to talk us out of it, It's like, no, with an ARC mother, you can say that. It may not work, right? Because she's an expert at doing that. And you have been habituated, especially with her, to acquiesce to what she wants because it's just so much easier than all the bullshit that goes along with having a war about where to eat. So again, with people who do not have this personality disorder or who do not have some kind of cluster B personality disorder, you speaking it and pointing it out and saying, hey, I've already told you that I'm not going to that party with you on Saturday. And I really don't appreciate you asking me again and again and again, because it's like you're not respecting my no. So my simple request is that you respect my no. I'm getting up early on Sunday. I don't want to go. Get it? All right, moving on. How are we doing on time? Good. We got 8 minutes. Is it okay to ignore when mom turns on the tears for sympathy? Yeah. I mean, it is if that's what she's doing and you know it, and it sounds like the way you wrote it, you do know it. And you can say, hey, I'm sorry you're upset, but this is still my boundary. This is still what I need to do. And if she's like, you don't care that I'm upset, you're like, no, I do, but I care more about my boundary because that's my job. So I can't control the way you receive what I'm saying. And you're making it mean something that's making you cry, and I'm sorry. But I know that I have a right to my boundary or what I want to do or whatever. I hope that was up. Ooh. Jacqueline said, hey, how do you deal with a friend who frequently only talks about herself and her problems and barely asks about you? That friend is going through a lot of shit. I feel unheard because of this, and I have communicated this to her multiple times, but she's so consumed by this. What do I say to her? You know what? First of all, think about the fact that you're spending your one and only life fighting for 4 minutes of airtime with a friend who's been sucking up your bandwidth for probably decades. So think about that. And before she gets into her drama, just right up front say, nope, right up front. Be like, oh my God, Betty, please let me start today because I have something that's going on that is so important for me to tell you. And instead of letting her do the normal dance that you usually also do with her because you let her go first, even if she jumps in, you have to say, Betty, wait, no, I need to stop you today. I have something going on and I really need to talk about it. If Betty can't deal, with that, I don't know. I think we got to think about it. Betty should really be in the VIP section of your life, All right. How do you stay true to the no when you told yourself you were going to say if you are starting to second guess your decision? Well, you got to give yourself 48 hours, right? We have in the course itself, we have a 48-hour rule where you cannot take back a boundary. You have to sit with it for 48 hours. You're going to have all of that. It's super normal. It's called being in the in-between. You're doing something new, and the little kid in you is scared, like, oh, I'm in trouble. Crap, I said no to that person. After 48 hours, see how you feel. Really think about it. Because I got to tell you, your instinct to say no was the first thing that happened. If you really do change your mind legitimately, you can certainly tell them and say, hey, I don't know if it's too late, but I thought about it and I was able to rearrange something and I would like to come to the party or whatever, But you're really talking about the anxiety and the fear of rejection and the fear of judgment and the fear of being kicked out of the crew that comes with drawing boundaries when you haven't done it. that's what I say about that. How many more can I take, Team TC? I have 3 more I'm allowed to take. Woo! All right. Okay, what if a question isn't intrusive, but I still don't want to answer it? P.S. What do you do for a living? It's a typical first date question, but I don't like to share this with everyone. Well, you can say, if they say, what do you do for a living? You can say, you first. So you can certainly put it off. Because listen, on a first date, that's going to be a normal question. And if you don't want to answer it, that's okay. But still, you're right. You can say, you know what? I'm so much more interested in talking about what you do in your leisure time. So you can pivot. And there's lots of different languaging around pivoting, and that's your right to do so. Being super direct about that, I don't think there's a need. If you don't want to talk about it, just find a way not to talk about it. Unless you want to be super direct and be like, I don't tell people what I do for a living on the first date, but people might think that's odd, right? You can say, I work in finance, but I'm so bored with talking about my work. Can we please talk about what we do for fun? You know? And you can keep it super vague as well. How do you feel about, and how do you enforce boundaries and not feel guilty afterwards or not worry about the other person's, okay, I already handled that with someone else. You got it. It's going to get better. When you express your boundaries with an ARC, they run a smear campaign on you. How can we handle it? Unfriend any person involved with the smear campaign. Unfriend them, block the shit out of all of them everywhere on the interweb to the best of your ability. If your friends want to tell you what the narc is saying, tell them all. Do not tell me. What anyone else thinks of me, what they're saying is none of my friggin' business, and I don't care. So create the distance that you want. Listen, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it quickly because I'm running out of time, but I'm not saying it's easy. But you can do it, and you can put lots of space between you and that other person, you know? All right, moving on. One more, right? Someone said, is it better to set a boundary in person versus in writing, text, or email? Any way is good. Any way you can do it, I honestly feel like is good to do it. Because some people are like, I think you need to break up with someone in person. I'm like, I think you need to just do it with words. So actual words, don't hint. Don't make them try to figure out what the hell's going on. If you have something to say, just say, this is your choice. Because I feel like there's a big judgment that comes around this, you know? And my feeling is whatever will have you do it the most, that's the most important. All right. Oh my God, this is going to bring us to the end of our 3rd workshop. I hope that stuff really lights you up to get out there and do something. I am issuing you a challenge right now. I want you to use one of those scripts. Maybe it's with your nosy Aunt Betty. Maybe it's with Bob at work. We don't know. And go out and try it. And then go back to the Real Love Revolution Facebook group or right under any of the videos and let me know what happened. Share your aha moments. Let me know if it felt different, if you were able to do it, because this is what it's all about, putting it into action in your actual life. And please keep sharing on social media, because the more people that we can help elevate their boundary intelligence, the better our world is going to be. So many of you actually, our next live workshop, we're aware, our next and final live workshop is this Thursday, as in 2 days from now. So mark it in your calendar if you haven't. 3 p.m., same Terry channel, right here, wherever you are. That's where you want to come back to. Many of you have already been asking about the course, which doesn't actually start. The doors are not open yet, but they are opening on Thursday. But let's say you feel compelled. You want to do something right now because you know you're in. Go to terrycole.com/waitlist, and you will literally be the first to know. And the early adopters all get additional bonuses, a whole stack of stuff. So if you know you're in, make sure, we already have about 800 people on that list already. But if you're not one of them, you want to be terrycole.com/waitlist. And I'm super pumped to see you on Thursday at 3:00, where we're going to be really talking about the up-leveling, like how do you get to the next level boundaries? Because for a lot of you, this is new information. And I'm going to tell you about how you can continue on this journey if that's something that is in your wheelhouse, that you want to do, that you're interested in doing, where you will have the time to have the repetition, to sort of get through the in-between and into a more expert space with speaking up, drawing boundaries, and knowing who you are and what you want. That is what true empowerment is all about. And that is what I will be teaching you in Boundary Bootcamp. So all love and boundaries to you. I will see you on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for being here with me. I super appreciate you, little boundary bosses in training. I do. I will see you on Thursday.